How's it going, y'all? Hope you are having a fantastic weekend. Do you prepare for the quiz 2.1 to 2.2? Do you like that shout right there? I love this song. I know you're dancing right now. I know you're ready to go today. I am too. And I'm about ready to screen share this real quick. And we are going to get this show on the road. Hey, I apologize today with some of the writing today. You're going to notice that there is a little bit of some complications. My tablet, I forgot the pen. That's kind of important. So we're going to do the best we can. I told you we would do a podcast, so I am committed. We are doing a podcast, and the questions we're going to go over are going to be very much linked to what will be on the quiz. And so there's 5 questions. I'm not going to tell you exactly what questions they are. What I will do is just kind of hopefully set the stage for you by doing these 5 right here. Okay, so let's do this. First thing, let's talk about the number 10. These are not in order. I kind of pulled these off your homework there, so we're going to take them and fly. So first thing, let's talk about y and x-intercept. First thing, remember with x-intercept, we plug 0 in for y to solve for the x-intercept. So if I did this, it would be something like this. So 0 equals -4, and then we would have x plus 3 squared, right? You know how to do this, and then plus 5 on the outside, right? So the whole goal of this is trying to figure out what the x-intercepts will be, and in doing so, hopefully help us moving forward, all right? So that's kind of how we do the x-intercepts. Now, how can I get x by itself? Well, remember that these two are being multiplied. So I'd like to try to subtract this. So we're going to subtract this 5 here. And again, sorry about the lack of neatness, but we're going to take it and fly. And in so doing, we get -5 equals the -4 times x plus 3. X plus 3 and squared on the outside. So my next thing I'd like to do is get the 4 by itself, and in getting the 4 by itself, I'm going to divide by that 4. So I'm going to divide by -4 here. And remember too, once I divide by -4, this will turn into a positive. And notice the right side being squared. We want to get rid of that squared by square rooting. So really what we have is the square root of 5. So I'll kind of put it over here. The square root of 5 over, and remember square root of 4 we can simplify to get 2, right? So square root of 5 over 2. And now the square root, because we square root both sides, right? This square is gone, so it's just equal to x plus 3. So if we were to subtract 3 on both sides, we were able to get what the x-intercept would be. Now on the test, I'll tell you whether I want it in that form or as a decimal. I can't remember what I said on that quiz, but what I will do is I'll tell you on the quiz which one to do. So if you wanted to leave it as this, you could, and kind of go from there. The only other thing that I missed was when you do the square root, right? Square root is squared. We want to make sure that it's plus and minus, right? Because we want to make sure that it's both. So make sure you do 2 of them, plus or minus square root of 5 over 2, or minus 3. And again, that would be what the x-intercept would be. Now, as far as the y-intercept goes, y-intercept, we plug 0 in for x. So if you could do this with me, you could kind of see that if I plug 0 in for this one right here, 0 plus 3 is 3, square it, we get 9. 9 times -4 is -36, and -36 plus 5 is -31, right? So what we have now is we have 0, comma, -31 as my y-intercept, and we're going to leave it just like this in terms of that y-intercept here. For the x-intercept, you could actually rewrite these as both of these, but then you put comma 0 and kind of flip-flop that for number 10, okay? Now the next one is finding the left and right behavior here. I will give this to you on the quiz tomorrow as far as Monday goes. I'll have this, and so we're looking for the lead coefficient as well as the degree, okay? That's the goal, finding the degree and the lead coefficient. Now, remember the lead coefficient's the number in front of the variable, and we're looking whether it's positive or negative, and since it's positive, we'll put that there. Now, the degree being odd, being to the 5th, right, the highest exponent, maybe not the first all the time. And by the way, maybe on the quiz, I might flip-flop that, so make sure you even circle that. We know the degree is odd. So when the degree is odd, lead coefficient is positive. Based on the chart that I had set up for you, we will rise to the right. Okay, so I'd say rise to the right. By the way, falcons rise up, and we will fall to the left. Okay, and so what we would do is just put just like that, rise right, fall left, and that'd be sufficient. That'd be our end behavior. Okay. Awesome. And just a pick, if you want to pick there, for those of you who don't understand text language, that's picture. Okay. And we'll put it right there. Okay. All right. We've got first two done. Let's keep it rolling. Kind of see them on the side here. These are the ones we're going through. Just got 3 more left. This next one's a little interesting. It says this: do all parts to sketch the graph. Apply the lead coefficient test, which is the end behavior to find there. And then it says find the zeros of the polynomial and plot sufficient points to graph it. So, and then it says draw a continuous curve. So what we're going to do, and I'm actually going to get something here. Let's see if I can click and drag this. Maybe I can make this bigger. If not, I apologize, but we're going to try to make this bigger so we can get that there. Oh, perfect. Perfecto mundo. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is find the lead coefficient. So we're going to use the lead coefficient test. So the lead coefficient being negative, we're going to put that there, okay? So we know it's a negative value. The next is our degree. The highest degree is even. So we're just going to put even here. I'll put E. Because it's negative with an even degree, we know it's going to fall both left and right. So I'm just going to put this here, fall left and right. Now let's look at the second part. The second part says find the zeros of the polynomial. Since this is a negative out here, let's factor out a negative to make that lead coefficient positive. So it should look something like this: negative x squared. Now if I take it out of the first one, it's got to be all of them, right? So minus 10x, because I changed that sign. All right, and then plus 16. So we're going to put that right here. Okay. Now, can I factor the inside? Well, remember to find x-intercepts, we set it equal to 0, right? So that's what we're going to do is we're going to set this equal to 0. And we can see that there's 2 factors that when multiplied get me to 16. Well, I think there is, right? And as I think about it, it'd be 8 and 2. And remember, they have to add to be equal to that 10. So we know that 8 and 2 are there, and we're going to put both as negative on that side. So if I were to set both of these equal to 0, my x-intercepts would be 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to put 1 here, right? And so I can even put 8, comma 0. That's my first point, right? And my second point is 2, comma 0. And as I think about this, remember that you can use your calculator on this part of the test, but there might be some parts in here you might need to show work on. So that's why I'm doing it without a calculator. And we'll put 2 here, okay? Now, it doesn't necessarily say to find our vertex, but because we know it's something that's squared, it may be helpful that we find the vertex, because on C it tells us to plot points. Since this is in standard form, it might be good for us to do the form with negative b over 2a. So we're going to do negative b over 2a. We're going to find the x of the vertex, and then we're going to use that to plug in for y to find what y is, or plug in for x to find what y is there. So the b in this specific one, and I'm going to come back over here, okay, where it's not factored out. By the way, since this is negative, we know it's going to be reflected, so we can expect the graph to go downward, right? We also know it falls left and right, so both of those connect together. The fact that it's reflected and the fact that we know the end behavior based on the lead coefficient test, okay? Hopefully this is connecting. So now we're going to go over here and say the b is 10. So we're going to say negative 10 over 2 times a being negative 1. Now as I simplify this, negative 10 divided by negative 1 is 5. So we have 5 here, comma. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in plug this in to this specific one. So I'm going to say over here, we're going to square first and then bring the negative. So 5 squared with a negative, I'm putting it down here, should be negative 25. And 5 times 10 would be 50, so plus 50. And then it's going to be subtracted by 16. So you could either do it on a calculator, or because of those rapid calculation drills we've been doing, you could probably figure this out by just kind of we're doing it in your head. So we're going to go to 5, 3, 4, 5, okay? All right. And then afterwards, I'm going to make sure, did I do that right? X minus 8, x minus 2. Believe so. Okay. Just want to make sure I space that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, here we go. I just counted wrong over here. Okay, perfect. So when I plug 5 in, I will get out 9. Okay. And so it's going to be 5, and 9's about right up in here. It's a little further than I have, but we'll kind of make do. So as you see, we could kind of plug it in on this side. To make it even more specific, might be helpful just to kind of note. It would be good to kind of find the y-intercept by plugging 0 in for x, which would be like negative 16. So that'd be way down here, so that's not necessary. We've got sufficient points graphed to figure out what that graph is doing there. Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's do the next one here. This next one, just kind of a little bit different. I'm hoping, I think I've got a graphing one. I actually may do the graphing one on this one, do the graphing calculator. I'm actually going to do that one last. So let me come back to that one. This one right here is where we're going to use the vertex form. So y equals a parentheses x minus h squared, right? And plus k. Remember that the h and k of this equation is the vertex, and so we're trying to find it in vertex form first, and then transition to then plug the point in to find the entire equation there. So we're going to plug 4 in for h. So plug that in, and we're going to plug in for k. We're going to plug -1 in. Okay, so we're going to have a here. This equals y, right? Okay, perfect. All right, so as I plug this in, we're going to plug in 2 in for x, 3 in for y. So we'll have 2 minus 4 squared, and then we'll put the a here. And then y is going to be 3, okay? And then -1 on the outside. So once I kind of simplify this, 2 minus 4 squared would be 2 squared, or -2 squared would be 4. So we have 4a minus 1 equals 3. We're going to get that a by itself by adding 1 to both sides to get 4. Right? Because if I add 1 to each side, I get 4. So 4 equals 4a. You probably have seen this. So you're just going back to your original, which is right here. And instead, you'll put 1 in. But because it's in front, you don't even need that. So we have the equation right here. Now, the last thing we've got to do is get it into standard form is what it asks for. And so in getting it into standard form, we're going to square x minus 4 squared. And then once I square that or multiply it by itself, we then will subtract 1 to get our entire answer. The only difference is if you had a number in front here that wasn't 1, let's say it was 2, we would multiply this, then multiply by 2, distribute it all in, and then subtract by 1. So the answer would end up being x squared minus 8x, and then plus 15. Okay, and that would be my answer on that side. Okay, if you want to go back and do that one, you can, and if you have questions, bring them in, and we'll talk about them there too. All right, so let's go step by step through this. Step A, find all the real zeros of the polynomial. Okay, so first thing, they've already kind of set us up for it. The fact that g of x or y, right, because we're talking function, is the following. We have 5x, and factor out the inside. And when you factor that out, can you factor that out? That's a good question. This might be a tougher one than I thought. Yeah, I don't think there's a way that I could actually factor this out here. So because of that, it's already factored for us. We're going to set both parts of these equal to 0. So we'll say 5x is equal to 0. Now that's easy because if I divide by 5, x equals 0. So that's the first x-intercept is 0, 0. Okay? Just kind of set that up there. And then the next part, this next part's kind of a little tougher because now it's 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 1. And why that's important is we're going to do the quadratic formula. So this is where we'll do x equals negative b, which negative b would be positive, right? So we'll have 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So negative 2 squared is 4 minus 4. A is 1, and B or C is -1, so that's 1 times -1. And this will be all over 2a. So I'm going to come 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. So now I can kind of work inside. I have 4. This 2 negatives make a positive. So this is 4 multiplied on the inside, all 3 of those. 4 plus 4 is 8. So we have 2 plus or minus square root of 8 all over 2. Now, this is where the, I guess, this is where we could kind of go to our calculator probably as far as like the answers. Like when I say real zeros, that'd be a good idea on that to be able to identify that. So because it's plus or minus, we're going to do that. We're going to go to our calculator to solve for this. But notice that the multiplicity of here would be 1. And because this is plus or minus, 1 would be plus, 1 would be minus. We'll have 1 for each of them. So the multiplicity of the 3 zeros is 1, 1, and 1 there, because remember it's repeated, how many times it's repeated. All right, so we have the multiplicity. All we're going to need to do is find the real zeros, which I'll plug this in my calculadora. And then we're going to graph it and just verify our answers just to make sure we're all good there. So let me go out of this real quick. Hey, what's up? What's up again? All right, let's go to, all right, let me pull up that. Yeah, let me get this calculator so you can kind of see it. All right, that works there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to go x squared, or I'm sorry, 5x. I do that all the time. All right, x squared minus 2x minus 1. And I'm going to graph it, okay? Now this is, you can't really see it. You kind of see where it's at here. So I'm going to try to zoom in just a little bit. Let's see what we can do here. When I zoom in, I'm going to zoom in up to the top here. There you are. Let's see what we can do there. Still nothing. So I'm going to go to zoom fit. So this is just, you might say, Coach, you know, are you wrong? No, I'm just trying to fit it in my window. That's it. So you kind of see here where you kind of see where the minimum is, and you probably could even see the maximum. Just going to zoom out one more time just to make sure. Let's see if I can. Okay, perfect. So here's the maximum, minimum, and so on and so forth. And so what we're trying to do is figure out where this bad boy hits the x-axis. But before we do that, let me go over here. Let me quit that because I want to make sure I do the 2 plus or minus the square root of 8 all over 2. So in that situation, I would do 2 plus the square root of 8, press enter, and then I'll divide that by 2. So my first x-intercept should be 2.4, all right, 2.4 on that side. And if I did 2 minus square root of 8, get that answer, divide that by 2. Should get negative 0.41. So as I go through, and again, you put as that comma 0 and that comma 0, and then 0 comma 0. So you have 3 x-intercepts. All we're trying to do is identify is that true. So mainly just try to make sure you know how to use your calculator to solve for this. Y'all have been rocking. It's probably my best group that I've had that kind of knows how to use your calculator and just kind of identifies that. So let's zoom in here. Let's see what happens. Okay, you kind of see here, there's 1 here, and it looks like it might even hit here again. And then, so let's try to find what this x-intercept would be right here. So to do that, remember we're going to second trace. We go to 0, which is x-intercept. We're going to go left bound, so we're going to say that it hits right here. So we're going to left bound, boom. And then I'm going to go right there, okay, right there. And you can tell that the y is positive. That's how I know it's above the x-axis there. I'm going to go right straight in the middle. And when I do, you should get negative 0.41, which is the same thing we just did. So what you would do is actually go to each of these x-intercepts and solve for it. Another thing I would do is go to second trace, and in case you needed to find a maximum, let's say we were trying to go maximum. So we can go here. So we go max, remember left bound, and then we go right bound of where that max is, and then we go somewhere in the middle, and should give us exactly where that maximum is. Same thing for the minimum as well. Some on the test or on the quiz may ask for, hey, what's the minimum, what's the maximum, kind of go from there. So be sure you have your calculator to do that going forward. As far as everything else goes, I hope that was helpful for you. And again, good luck studying. And let me know Monday morning. We should be good. Come on by, and we'll touch base from there. Thanks, and have a great day.